Let me get down here. Hi guys, welcome. Happy Saturday. Today's Saturday, December 30th. My name is Roxy and I live in Bolingbrook, Illinois, which is the home of WeatherTech and now, more importantly, Cosmic. Have you heard about Cosmic? It's this spin-off for McDonald's. And apparently we have the first one in the world. And it's crazy. Anyway, welcome to my channel. This series is going to be, I had someone who said, that could you maybe go over some different components of stamping in detail for those who may be beginning or need a refresher course. Please excuse my mess behind me. It's horrible. I need to clean up. 3-day weekend, I'm going to get it done. All right, so I thought I would go ahead and do it. So I'm going to see first if we're live on YouTube, and it looks like we are.
See first if we're live.
Turn off the volume on YouTube. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to be doing. Let me go ahead and go over to our stamping surface. Let me add my little picture. Ooh, let's get a little closer for that. And let's make it a little bit smaller. You don't need to take up all the stamping area. There we go. Sorry about that. Should have done that before we got together. Anyway, so here is kind of what I have planned for this. It is going to, let me do something here really quick. It's going to weekly, and I might go live like I am now, or I may do it as a premiere. So I'll pre-record it and then I'll be live in the chat with you guys in case you have questions. But these are the items I think I'm going to go over. Oh, and is okay. Sorry, I don't know if if I was stalled over on YouTube. Anyway, let's go ahead. Let me make sure I'm live there. All right, so we're going to start today. Now today is going to be kind of a big overall overarching day because we're going to talk about the main basics: stamps, ink, and paper. Okay, and then you'll see we have other things going on. I may add different items, like in cutting tools. I realized I didn't say punches, so when we get to cutting tools I might incorporate punches. So it'll be a work in progress. I'm going to try to stay very simplistic with this. This is kind of like I called it chapter 1. So this is stamping, a volume of stamping according to Roxy. I don't know. Let's come up with a great name for it. Anyway, so just so you know, I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I have been since 1999, so this is my 25th year. I did a craft show, and someone asked me how long I did it, and I said 27 years. Well, I've been stamping for 27 years, but I didn't join Stampin' Up! Till 2 years in. Anyway, so today we are going to go over stamps, paper, and ink. Stamps, ink, and paper. So when I'm talking about these pages in the catalog, it's going to be 122 and 123 and 137. And then when we get to the stamps, we'll go over that. So now, paper comes in a variety of items or sizes. The basic ones I'm going to talk about are, and we're just talking regular cardstock today, and cardstock has a weight to it. I believe Stampin' Up's is 80 pound, if I remember right. But your basic cardstock, just plain colored cardstock, is usually in 8.5 by 11 or in 12 by 12. Now this is an old sheet of, I think this is crumb cake, I'm not sure. I don't keep a lot of 12 by 12s anymore, and when I do get 12 by 12 single color cardstock, I usually cut it into 4-inch strips to then be able to make card layers with. Now I need to slow down because I'm giving way too much information all at once. So what we're going to start here is with your 8.5 by 11. Usually when you make cards, and let me see if I can go out just a little bit. Oh, no, wait, I have to go here and go out a little bit. There we go. Go out a little bit here so you can see a little bit better. So 8.5 by 11 is your standard card stock size. When you're making faces for cards, so your main fold of a card, there's usually 2 main sizes that I use. Now there's many different, measurements you can cut across, but the 2 basic that most people use, I would say, in probably 85 to 90% of the card fronts, are either 8.5 by 11 cut down in half to 5.5 by 8.5. And then it's folded in half at 4 1/4. So this is one of your basic sizes of cards. This is 5.5 by 4 1/4. And again, you get 2 cards out of every 2 card bases out of every sheet of cardstock. The other size that's popular is taking that same 8.5 by 11, and this time you cut so you get a 4 1/4 by 11. Let me go ahead and again, you're going to score or fold this one halfway, which is 5.5 inches. And this is what they usually call a book fold card. Now, yes, to me, this seems more like a book, and this is more like, to me, a ledger. But people will score down here and call it a book binding card. So some people also refer it to hamburger, hot dog. Because this is longer like a hot dog, and this is more like, I guess, a hamburger. I don't know. Horizontal, vertical, whatever you want to call it. But those are the 2 main card bases. Now there are many others, because you can take your cardstock and do different sizes, different folds. And why is my, do you see? That bothers me. I wonder if it's because I'm holding on to, let me see if I unplug my phone, if that stops. Huh, that bothers me a little bit. It's like beating like a heart. Do you see that? All right, let's zoom back out. Maybe you won't see it as much. No, you're still seeing it. That is really weird. I hope it's not because I have an alarm going off or anything. Here, let me stand up really quick just to make sure. No. All right, I don't know. Hopefully it's not too noticeable, and I'm sorry if it is, because that is very distracting to me. All right, so you also have your 12 by 12, which is your scrapbook size. Like I say, when I get this, I usually cut it into 4-inch strips and make layers out of this. Still on the paper, going along the paper basics, when you have your basic card, you'll hear people talking about layers. You know what? I'm going to take this off. How about that? That way I don't notice if it's pulsating. All right, and I always have a bone folder. You can also use a pan scraper. You can use a wooden block. Just makes your card lay down a little bit more. So you have your basic card base. You can do stamp right on this and it's done. Your card is done. Or you can add layers. I have this. This is a kit that I gave out a bunch of these last year when people would order for me. And I think I have a couple laying around still, I'm not sure. But these are your basic layers. Let me go here. So here is your main card base here, as you can see. Here's your 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then all of these are showing going down 1/4 of an inch. Traditionally, going down 1/4 of an inch is pretty much your standard for layers, because when you go down 1/4 of an inch, it gives you an 1/8 of an inch layer. So like, here's my cardstock. So let me take out one of these layers and show you what I mean. So there's my basic cardstock, or my base size. Going down 1/4 of an inch would mean you're going down to 4 and 5 1/4. And see, when you do that, see how it gives you a layer. So if you're layering this on your card, you have that nice frame going around. And then the next most common layer down, let me get here, oh my goodness, is 3 3/4 by 5. So if a lot of people like doing the 2-layer look, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to have a piece that's 4 by 5 1/4, and then 3 3/4 by 5. Now, it's all up to you how you want to do it. You could go straight down to this size if you want a bigger frame, or you don't have to layer at all. But the basics of cardstock is usually a base card and then some sort of layer. Now let's talk about cardstock. Cardstock is different from manufacturer to manufacturer. Stampin' Up! Actually does solid core color, which means this is Parakeet Party, I believe. This is solid all the way through. If you rip it in half, you're not going to see a white core. Some card companies have white core. It's just something that Stampin' Up! Does, is they make it their solid color cores. Also, people talk about when you score, which way do you fold it? People talk a lot about the natural bend of a card, how one way bends easier than others. Now, I don't know if you can see, but this is bending pretty easily. This is a little more resistant. So that tells me the grain is kind of going that way. Now, some people fold bump in when you score, some people fold bump out. I don't think it makes that much of a difference. Stampin' Up's paper cardstock is pretty good quality, so there's not a lot of cracking with it. And that's usually when you're worried about the grain and all that, is because it affects cracking. Alright, so like I said, with my 12 by 12s, I used to do scrapbooking, and I would use it a lot for then. Then I got into digital scrapbooking, and now I don't do scrapbooking that much anymore. So I'm going to move this just a little bit more over. So what I do when I get my 12 by 12 is I'm usually cutting it down so I have ready layers. So when you take a 12 by 12, let me go back out again. Oh, I'm still in. Sorry. Let me go back out again. All right, now you're gonna see all my messiness. So, this out of the way. So here you can see my whole 12 by 12. So when I get 12 by 12, since you can't really, you can make card bases out of this. You could do a 6 by 6, which is another popular style, but there may be additional postage required because it's not what's called a standard for, standard size for an envelope. So what I usually do when I get my 12 by 12, if I buy solid color, is I'll cut it down into 3 strips of 4 inches across. And then I'll cut those down to the 5 1/4. That way I have layers ready to go to put on a card base. And I also have, if you want, little greetings or little additional elements you can use inside the card, or you can use this for punches or sentiments or greetings. All right. Stampin' Up, like I said, is solid core colors. We do have 40 colors that are in our base, in our foundation of colors. So we have the 40 colors in the 4 family groups, and then we have in colors, which are specialty on-trend colors that are around for 2 years. So every year they introduce a new 5, which are called the trendy colors, and then they'll retire one. So this just got introduced, this catalog. So this set of group here has been around for 1.5 years now. They will be retiring at the end of April. And then you always have, of course, so that's our 40 base colors, our 10 in colors, so that's 50 different colors. I know, it's a lot. But then you also have your white, your vanilla, and your black in your paper choices. Okay, so that's a little bit basics about paper. And I'm going to show you, let me go back up a little bit now. Let me show you, this is my color coach. So I update it every catalog. And what this is, it shows me the way a cardstock appears, how the markers color when you're putting on a white sheet, how the blends, and we'll get to those later. This is all part of your inks and that. So the word is stamped with a stamp pad. These 2 lines are drawn with the marker. These are drawn with blends. And then this is using Versamark, which we're going to introduce when we get to our ink section. And then, I know, it's hard to see on this one. Let me find one that it really shows up on. Here we go. And then on the very edge, I'll also have what it looks like with bleach. So this was putting my stamp into, stamping it onto a bleach, a cloth soaked in bleach, and that's the effect you get. Because there's different varieties come out, because like here's like a blue where when you bleach it, it turns kind of, and you can't really see it too well, but it's kind of more yellowish. There is one that I think goes to a purplish, but not all the colors. Oh yeah, here's our purple, and it goes into almost like a turquoise look. So that's, again, the different colors of cardstock. All right, I think that's enough about paper right now. And like I said, my paper for this week is just basic cardstock, not specialty papers, not designer series paper, just basic cardstock. All right, let's get on to inks. So to me, these are your main, let me go out just a little bit. There we go. These are your main inks that I use routinely. Let's start with your dye-based inks. The Stampin' Up! 50 colors come, we call them classic, which means they're a dye ink. Dye means it dries faster. Pigment is more like paint. And why I bring that up is that and this is a very old one, we used to call them craft pads, but your Versamark and your craft pad, which we have just the white in right now, are the only ones that Stampin' Up! Carries, let me double check, that are considered pigment, which means they take longer to dry. Let me just double check. Go back here. Yes, so there you see, here's your craft Stampin' ink and your Versamark. Those are both pigment based, which means they're take longer to dry. So we have your 50 colors that come in this dye based ink, so it dries pretty fast. Then we also have, this is also dye-based, but this is a black. We used to have a basic black pad, but now it's this tuxedo black Memento pad. And so that is your basic black, the black that is usually used. I'm finding I'm using my Pebbled Path, which is an in color, more than I'm using the Memento recently. This is, like I said, this is an old stamp pad, because when you get it, you get a re-inker with it. Let me go ahead. I think my re-inker's over here somewhere. Yeah, it's not in this pile. I'll have to find it. And I'm right by the microphone, so I'm so sorry about that. But you have a re-inker, so you re-ink this. Since it is like, it's pigment, so it's more like a paint, it tends to dry out faster when exposed to air. So you wouldn't need to re-ink this one more. Your Versamark is a pigment ink, but it's also called a watermark. Now going back to that, to my color coach, you can see this is your Versamark. So it's a watermark look, it's a tone on tone look. So when you stamp it on there, it will take just a little bit of dry, not forever, like maybe, less than half a minute. But it'll give you a darker version of the cardstock underneath it. So if you don't want to invest in 50 different colors of ink, just invest in a Versamark pad. And then you will essentially have a tone on tone look for everything, for every color. The other thing that's not used very often anymore, we used to have ink spots that came in all of the family colors. Family colors, yes, I said that right. Now we have a classic mixture, so what they consider, I think, the top 10 colors. Let's see, here we go. Stampin' Spots, there's your classic assortment. So you can see that that's what you get in that 10 pack of spots. You also can buy on ink spots and use your re-inkers to make whatever color you want. These are nice to use for smaller stamps, also for stamping direct to paper to give like a background look, or with our new hybrid embossing folders. It's a great way to ink up those embossing folders. That's for another week. So that's your basic inks, your dye-based inks that dry fast. So dye dry in the 50 colors. Your Memento Tuxedo Black, which is just a basic black stamp pad. Your Versamark, which is a pigment. Pigment's like paint, so it takes a little bit longer to dry. So Versamark is your pigment. And then you have your pigment-based, your craft white pad. So those are inks. Now, let's talk about stamps. Now, the 3 stamp sets that I'm going to show you today are all on, they're called online exclusive, which means you don't have to get a catalog to see these. These are an online exclusive, which means you can go on my website or just stampinup.com and see these items that are available for purchase. Stamps come in a wide variety of collections. What I am showing you here is mainly the 2 different styles of stamps. Well, really, the only style of stamps Stampin' Up! Currently carries. And that is photopolymer. That is photopolymer, which means they're a clear stamp that you can see through. So that's photopolymer. And clear mount. I guess they call them cling now. They call them different things throughout the years. Red rubber. Remember, I've been with the company for almost 25 years, so there's been different names. We used to have them on wood, which was also fun. I still have some wood stamps laying around that I won't sell. So these are now called cling stamp sets, which means they are a red rubber, but they have this cling label that makes them sticky. Now, these work best when used with an acrylic block. Let me go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm right by the microphone again. These work best with an acrylic block, but they also can stick to a stamp pad. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you use a stamp pad, but in a moment of panic, if you don't have any blocks with you, you could use a stamp pad. Just remember, there's a lot of surface area here that's not elevated like the stamp. So that tends to potentially give you more area to make mistakes with when you're stamping, to get edges or to not have a clear stamp image. Usually you want your blocks to be approximately the size, your stamps to be approximately the size of the block, or vice versa. It gives you the best image. And I don't know which I like better. If I like the red rubber better, or if I like, sorry, I'm looking for my cleaning pad because I just noticed that I used this on my New Year's Day cards and didn't clean it off. People ask, do you like red rubber or the photopolymer better? I'm not really sure. I like both. They both have their good points and their bad points. With the clear mount, cling, they were clear mount forever. With the cling, I still like the squishiness with the foam in there. I think they give some really good looks, especially when you have specialty stamps that are like, and we'll get into them. We'll get into different styles of stamp, the distinctive, the reversibles, and the two-step stamping. So these are nice for what I would consider distinctive. I think they stamp distinctively better. Now, I don't think our distinctive are all cling, but it just seems it's a better impression. So that is your clings. Now, your photopolymer, like I said, are clear. What's nice about this, they still go on the blocks. Let me get one that's a better size for this block. They still stick on your block, but you can see through them. So this is really helpful when you're doing two-step stamping, because you can see your outline image and your inside image at the same time. So they usually stamp best when used with a glass mat or with a piercing mat, which is just a dense foam pad that helps, because you don't have that layer of cushion. It helps even everything out when you stamp. So with the photopolymer, this gives it that little extra support so that it stamps beautifully. Also with glass mats, it stamps really well. Okay, so that's the two basic types of stamps, your cling and your photopolymer. But like I said, there's also different varieties of stamps. And let me see, I can't remember which page they talk about. Let's see, here we go. Page 7 of the catalog. Here are specialty stamps. So there's still going to be either, oh sorry, there's a little bit of glare. There's still going to be cling or photopolymer, but they have different properties to them. A distinctive stamp kind of gives you a very etched, very elegant look. When we actually get into making a card at the very end of all the lessons, because we're not going to make cards of this, we're just talking about the products and showing you a little bit about them. But I don't know if you can see in this example here how the distinctive gives that really fine detail. I'm trying to think in my side, I have all these cards off to my side. Let me see if I can find a card that used, I'm looking for my, here we go. Here was a card using distinctive. Do you see how you have that outside, but you also have all that etching on the inside? That is what they mean by distinctive. You have two-step stamping. So here's that, where you have an outside image and an inside image. Here's an example of a two-step stamp. So you can see the outline of the flower was done in a light green. The inside was done in a yellow. So you stamped, and I prefer to stamp the outline than the more solid. Again, it's a personal preference. Different people like to do it different ways. Here's another one that's that two-step stamping, where you stamped the outline first with one color. This was a darker green, and then the inside with a lighter green. So there's another example of the two-step stamping. And then you have reversibles. Now let me, because I haven't made, I did make an example, but I don't think it's in my little box here, because this box gets sorted through. Let me just grab from my stamp shelf back here Here is a reversible. Reversibles are going to be photopolymer. And what happens is, here's your photopolymer stamp. One side has the image on it. The other side is your background or your shadow effect. Now, unlike other photopolymer stamps, and this is really a textile type thing, when you have these, this is kind of, the back is kind of sticky-ish because it's meant to stick on the block. These are both sticky, but I can't explain it, but this is a more smooth back. It glides better. Now, of course, these are going to be symmetrical. So when you go ahead and stamp the image down, then you're going to go ahead and, oh, that wasn't a good example, because that you have to use both of them. So here's this example. You would stamp the leaf side first, and then, so it's pretty symmetrical, so then you would do this side to be the outline underneath. So that's what reversibles are. Usually pretty symmetrical, very little variance, so it works best for that shadow side stamping as well as your detail stamping. All right, that's it for chapter 1 of the book of stamping by Roxy, per Roxy. In Roxy's words. I don't know. We'll figure out what's going to go on. So your basics today were stamps, ink, and paper. All right. I thank you for joining me. Give me a thumbs up. Send me a comment. I answer all comments. Share this video with your stamping friends and on your social media. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week for chapter 2. I don't even know where I put it. Chapter 2 next week. We'll be talking about adhesive. So after this, it'll be a little more tunnel vision, because here we had to talk about 3 different things, 3 different components. Adhesives is a component all on its own. So next week we'll talk about your different forms of adhesives and what they're good for and what they work best on. All right, guys. Thanks, like I said, thanks for stopping by. Have a happy new year. I wasn't going to start this till next week, but I thought might as well just get into it right now. I was just going to do an intro and then start it next week, but this is what I do. All right, thanks for putting up with me. Have a great weekend. Have a happy and safe new year, and we'll see you next week for our next live featuring adhesives. Bye for now.